Chair. We've provided, if we could go back to the prior slide, in your packets, you have the information that we traditionally provide. But I am going to take a few minutes, and I'll be brief at the beginning of this, given the time constraints. I'm going to be forced to brief you on another item in your email. You all should have an email from me with a set of documents in it, as well as a press release that went out today. So I encourage you to pull that up on your computer so that as I brief you, you can follow along in the documents. Let me say that this briefing breaks my heart to give you because I've committed the last 5 years to working hard to serve Houston, to do it in a way to do it in a manner that is of the utmost integrity that you can trust, and to ensure that we are working hard to address Houston's affordable housing crisis. Unfortunately, I've reached a point where I can no longer do the bidding of this administration as it relates to this development. And I want to be clear at the outset, while this is a particular story with a particular set of facts that I will walk you through today, this is simply the straw that has broken my back as it relates to this, and there are similar stories that are percolating through our department right now that have similar fact patterns. It's a very legitimate question. You may ask, why not just leave silently? And I'm not doing that because I think it is important for you to know what we face on a regular basis as we do our work. Sometimes we don't do what government should do because we don't have the staff capacity to execute. Over the last 5 years, I think everyone who's on council has seen that we have built that capacity in our department. We have a strong team that is doing phenomenal work. So sometimes government fails because there's political meddling that is made to look like dumb staff decisions. And that, unfortunately, is the story I have to tell you today. The overarching narrative that I just want to highlight is that based upon the press release that I was directed to send out last night and that went out this morning and that is now in your inbox, this administration is bankrolling a certain developer to the detriment of working families who need affordable homes. I want to direct you first of all, the packet in your email with the documents are in chronological order. They walk through them. I'll give you a very brief overview. I'm not going to walk through every document because I believe much of this is self-explanatory. And whether in my current role as director or if I am soon in a private citizen's role, I am available to brief you on the details of the documents that you have in front of you. But I do want to direct you to the very last email in that document. It's an email that is a response from Mayor Turner to me, and I want to direct you to the original email I sent the mayor last Friday night. This involves a development called Huntington at Bay Area. It is a development that received a support resolution for us, a support resolution that staff recommended. And it is a development that is now seeking $15 million from us to put 88 units of affordable senior homes in District E down in Clear Lake. I've given the analysis of what we have looked at here. It is in a district that we've not done a lot of work in, but unfortunately, compared to the alternatives that we have, we would be getting 88 units of affordable housing with this $15 million funding as opposed to a possible 362 units if the administration went with the staff recommendation. The cost per unit is nearly 5 times what the cost per unit for the affordability is for the other recommended units. The taxpayer funds, if you look at both the money from the city and the tax credits that go into this development, would result in $6.6 million going to support market rate units. One of the things I committed to when I came to the city was that affordable home funding would go to develop affordable homes. That had not always been the case in this department. And I can assure you that to date, affordable home funding has gone to develop affordable homes. In this case, $6.6 million would be going towards the development of market rate homes, something that is not needed in our department. The leverage is nominal. It's a general population it's a senior development. And while would be incredibly important if it was a family development zone to quality schools in District E, it simply is not that. And then finally, if this particular development does not move forward, there is another development ready to move forward in the Heights that would receive these tax credits and likely would not even need funding from us in order to move forward. So those were the reasons that I provided to the mayor last Friday night. You can see his response to me in that email. And then yesterday afternoon, I was directed via an email from Marvelette Hunter, the chief of staff for the mayor, to go ahead and issue the press release. I did issue that press release. The mayor has the right to direct me to do so. But I cannot support this moving forward. And I want to pause and just emphasize the reason why this should matter to you. We regularly come in front of you to make recommendations. And we look you in the eye and say, we've vetted these recommendations. They're good for the people we're serving. They're good for the taxpayers of Houston. And we followed the right process to get to the recommendation that we're doing. You have to trust me when I tell you that. And if I go back against that word and begin to bring recommendations to you that I know are not good for the taxpayers of Houston, that have not followed the right process, and that have been directed simply because the mayor told me to direct it, I will violate that trust and I will no longer be an effective director here. So for those reasons, I'm bringing this to you. I want to just very quickly circle back to the beginning of the document. What you have on pages 1 and 2 is a timeline for Huntington at Bay Area, as well as a numbered list of the documents that are in your packet. I want to emphasize that except for a set of phone calls early in February and then a phone call in May, all phone calls were with the Chief of Staff, Marvelette Hunter. Everything else is documented in here. It's not a he said, she said, it's in writing in front of you. And then on pages 3, I've given you a summary of the narrative, and this is what I just want to walk through very quickly as opposed to going through the documents, but the documents are referenced. The first set of documents, documents 1 through 5, I've included primarily to show that this administration was interested in deals with the first name of Huntington. Huntington at Bay Area and Huntington at Witt. 2 different deals that came to us for resolutions of support. That matters because it's the same developer who's involved in both of those developments, a developer by the name of Mark Musumeci. I want to be clear here in referencing names that at no point am I alleging fraud against the administration or fraud by anyone else. I want to emphasize that. Some people will jump to that conclusion, and I would urge caution against jumping to that conclusion. The reason why I'm saying that is even if there is no fraud in this instance, it is something that you should care about because of the way it damages the way the city does business. So the point of documents 1 through 5, and I'm not going to linger much here, is that the administration, especially due to the phone calls with Marvelette, indicated that pushing us against the city policy, the department's policy for how we made recommendations, and pushing us to violate that policy was happening back in February. I want to be clear because I say it in the documents in front of you. I allowed that push, that inappropriate push to move forward because I knew that deal was never going to get funding, because I had evidence that it was going to get a letter of support. If I had not had that evidence, I would have drawn the line there because it was a violation of our policy and I moved forward. But you never voted on that, and your votes never violated city policy because of the outcome of that situation. The main story here is about Huntington at Bay Area. Again, the same developer who was the Huntington at Witt developer. And I want to just walk through the details here. Huntington at Bay Area needed a funding opportunity to keep it alive at the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs that oversees the tax credits. It was about to get killed because it needed $15 million of funding from us, and it would have been eliminated. Immediately before that elimination, Chief Hunter calls me and says, how do we get funding to the developer? I tell her that we go through a competitive process. Furthermore, we don't have funding laying around, especially $15 million of funding. She quizzes me in detail about what the competitive process would look like. And then the timeline in order to make that happen. After we had separate funding discussions about some funding that was available that could be moved, I was directed to move that and issue a notice of funding availability. That notice went out June 1st, June 7th, 4 business days later, the developer submits an application to us just in time to keep the deal alive. That's the creation of a funding opportunity that looks like a competitive process, but it has been predetermined before that process was even set in place that a particular developer would get $15 million.
Director.
Documents 10 through 15 show you the process by which we made our recommendations. We knew that we were supposed to set up this NOVA funding to fund a particular developer, but we don't do business that way at the housing department. We scored this like it truly was a competitive scoring process. And if Huntington would have come out on top, we would have supported it.
Director, I hear you, and I'm overwhelmed with all this information. However, because there are names that are listed in this and we have not given anyone else any opportunity to offer a response,